¿Te vas para allá? Vale. Ya. Bueno, pues luego te pasas para acá.
Tanto viene a cosa. Io sono vai. Tanto.
Pola 9.
Pola 10.
Pola 9 nije nikom. Onda idemo vidimo hektara da nas uvedu van, znači oko pola.
Mi smo tek istreći skontali koju banku trebamo ići. Da moraš baš u onu,
baš ondje.
Baš ona koja ti piše na čeku.
Ja sam mislio da možeš bilo koju ono.
To nije on rekao juče. Ispade nije tako. Pa smo, još dok smo nas isprovjeravali.
To ona dvojica, jesi kod vas bili ona dvojica?
To bi jaga.
Meni je već ovdje česko ovdje. Would you like to sit here near us?
Znači može tu.
Questa è una venire, no?
Nismo tu.
Dakle se javlja.
Koji ima papire.
Perfect.
This paper.
Yeah, I got some important papers instead of these. my voice. I know that it's not the best voice you will listen this week. It's a little bit annoying, but so first, one question: are you enjoying your international week at the city of Leon?
Yay!
Yes.
Have you visited the cathedral and
Today.
stuff? Okay. Yeah. It costs around 5 euros. The thing about the mask, just in case we take pictures. No, if we take pictures, it will look good. No, I mean, you have to put it on in case we take pictures.
Sì.
So, are you okay? Yeah. So, today we're going to have 4 different presentations from 4 different research groups from our university. The first person who's going to intervene in this conference is called Maite Tascon. She's a great person. I know her personally. She's a great person.
Okay, well, this sounds awful. Okay, but sounds sexier, but awful. So she's Mike Tascon, and she is a professor here specialized in finance. And she also takes part in a research group called Research Group in Finance. And she's gonna talk about carbon performance and financial performance today. So now, I don't want to say anything else because it's boring. I leave you to my friend.
Thank you very much. I think it is necessary that I use it because I have another one here. Maybe it's not necessary this.
Can you listen to her correctly?
It is necessary that I use the microphone? Yes. Yeah, better? Oh, okay.
We have another one. We have another one.
You want? No, don't worry. I can do it with it. Okay, so good morning. As Fernando said, my talk is about financial performance and carbon performance, sustainability at first aim. You can see in the picture the team that have been developing this line of research for several years, and we take part of the group of research in finance here at the University of Leon. Well, EURECA-PRO is about responsible production and consumption. And it's about responsible production and consumption, and the aim is sustaining a healthy environment, society, and economy. A relevant part of it is environmental performance, and our line of research is another part of it, which is carbon performance. I mean, the greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere coming from the economic activity and, well, human activity.
Okay.
Let's talk a bit what is carbon performance and environmental performance. About carbon performance. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that was promoted by the United Nations tries to get low carbon economy. The European Union plays have been moved.
Sorry for the technical problems. We will continue in less than 10 seconds. Okay?
I think I can speak louder. Yeah. Well, I was saying that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is has been promoted by the United Nations, and the objective is low carbon economy. So, in this aim, the European Union has been playing a leading role in the world to reach this target. The European Union strategy, what is in line with the Kyoto Protocol, the most important or the most relevant tool has been the European Emission Trading System that was created in 2005. Well, nowadays the general aim in Europe is reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions from all economic activity. And this is by 2050. An intermediate aim is the reduction of 40% of emissions by 2030. And both of them related to the levels in 1990. Well, this economic activity and the firms that are acting in it are under high pressure due to mainly two reasons: the increasingly stringent regulation and the growing public concern on the environmental effects of these economic activities, especially for high emitters. Well, we are in a target which is decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, and this is very strongly, well, this is strongly related to economic development and the level of technology by country. Let's talk a bit about the other part of it, which is financial performance. Here you can see several measures commonly used to decide if a company has or not financial performance. For example, net income. What is net income? It's the difference between revenues and expenses, or you can talk about operating earnings minus interest and taxes, or what. You can derive several types of profitability measures, such as return on assets, return on equity, return on investment, return on sales. Another measure is market value. So the participants in the stock change assess how much is the company value. Another type of is value creation. What is value creation? It is the difference between the return that is obtained by a firm minus the expected return for that company. The last one I've mentioned here is efficiency. Efficiency is a ratio, well, different types of ratios. This is a family, of measures, and is relating the production of a company with all the necessary resources to obtain that production. Could be production in natural units or in monetary units, it doesn't mind. Well, what about this line of research? This one relating the financial profitability with environmental profitability. The most popular or the most commonly used measures are return on assets and the Tobin scale, which is a market measure. Okay, let's talk about the relationship between both. We can say that we are in a new environmental paradigm, and it is remarkably affecting the business strategy. In what aspects? In capital investment, in the production processes, and in products themselves. And it means strong changes, remarkable changes, both in costs and in revenues. So we are affecting the measures I have previously mentioned, which are especially efficiency and profitability. So the companies have to rebalance their productions and their cost structures. And don't forget that this financial performance is a very serious concern for the owners, of course, for the shareholders, but also for other stakeholders, such as the creditors, the tax administration, the clients, and so on. Let's talk about the relationship between both. So, in this line of research, we have detected that there are two different approaches or two different scenarios: the win-win and the win-lose. What is a win-win? Win-win is that better carbon performance produces better financial performance. The ideal one, the one we want. So, what can be, how is it? It is because companies can develop new abilities or can be more efficient in the use of resources. Or maybe they have discovered some new opportunities for profits. Or maybe these new technological solutions are producing the reduction of costs. So all of them could lead to market performance and better accounting performance. On the other hand, well, carbon performance is costly for sure. So there are going to be additional costs coming from different sources. For example, from environmental actions, it is costly, prevention, repairing, conservation, all of it. The treatment of wastes, for example. Another source is environmental losses. The company have, well, maybe is going to receive fines or penalties because it's not able to gather all the mandatory requirements, for example. And regulatory compliance is costly, for sure. Well, what about our line of research? These are our research interests, this core. How should be the sustainable production to get this win-win scenario? The second is about the firm's cost of capital. And it is how it is affecting these proactive environmental actions of companies on financial, on the firm's cost of capital. And there is a question very interesting about the credit industry, because credit industry and other financial stakeholders are acting assessing this sustainable production. The third one is about financial leverage. Well, we are finance, so we are very interested in financing, as you can understand. And the last one is about some factors such as carbon risk, tangibility of the capital expenditures, and the generation of liquidity. Okay? And what about our results today? Well, first, for example, we have found that the reduction of carbon emissions have contributed to reducing information asymmetry between the creditors and the emitters. Yeah? And it means a better access to credit. The second is that carbon efficiency induces firms with higher investment intensity to obtain higher proportions of long-term debt. A third one is about life cycle, the life cycle stages of the firm. And we have found that firms with better carbon performance obtain better access, but mainly during the growth life cycle stage and not during the maturity one. And another one is about tangibility, that carbon performance has strong positive effect when the firms finance additional tangible investments. What about environmental transaction costs? Well, we have found that they are not properly integrated in the cost structure of emitters yet, and especially that there is a delay in adjusting the financing for emitters. Well, not for every type of company. For example, for larger firms, due to the specific characteristics of these type of firms, this is lighter, yeah, the excess cost. The same for technological firms, but for completely different reasons. And on the contrary, the excess cost can be suffered in a more pronounced way by regulated firms. And the reason is that frequently these type of firms cannot be passed on to the product prices, the costs. That's all for now. Thank you very much for your attention, and now we can talk about it if you want.
So now, if anyone has a question, you can ask the question. Just raise your hands up and say it out loud. Thank you. What's your name?
My name is Alia Kozak. Thank you for your great presentation. Very interesting. My question is about one of your findings, one of your results. You stated that better carbon reducing performance reduce symmetry between creditors and consumers. How that could be explained? What are the indicators?
Yeah. Well, you know, information asymmetry is about information basically, so about information availability. So, we have studied listed firms. I mean, firms at the stock exchange. Specifically, up to now, we have studied firms in the main index of every European stock exchange. So, these type of firms have a lot of information that's necessary that they offer to the market. And what we have found is that emissions that are mandatorily informed in a page of the European Union is a piece of information that is have a significant effect on the reaction of the shareholders or in the reaction of the market in general. So in this way, we have detected that this information asymmetry is reduced. And another question that we have detected is that creditors are taking care of these new pieces of information, specifically in this new line of, in this new paradigm. I mean, not only this is worrying for the society about the environment in general and about the resources and about sustainability, but also creditors are interested in everything about this and are assessing, and this is the reason why I said previously that that creditors are acting, and other financial stakeholders are acting as assessing how firms are complying with the environmental requirements. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your question and really good answer. I couldn't have done it better because I don't study finance as well. So, next, thank you. A big applause for Maite, please.
Thank you very much. If you are interested in any other question about our line of research, you are very welcome to send us an email or we can contact later if you want. Thank you.
And up next, we have Avelino Alvarez. He is professor of the food technology area of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. So, yeah, this is the time when I have to talk to you because we have to prepare all the presentation. Are you having a nice day so far? Are you expecting to have lunch? You will have to wait a little bit longer, but you will have it. So, you ready?
Yeah, ready. Okay, thank you. So, good morning, everyone. I hope you are okay here in Leon during this week and finding it interesting. So today I'm going to talk to you about a master plan that our research group and some other researchers across Europe have to exploit microbiomes, to develop microbiome applications in order to promote sustainability in food systems. But before going into detail, probably you need to know, if you are not aware, what a microbiome is. So the microbiome can be defined as the community of microorganisms that colonize any ecosystem. So these communities of microorganisms have a wide diversity of functions in every ecosystem. Every ecosystem is full of microorganisms, and they have the capability to degrade very different kinds of organic material to produce bioactive substances, and in that way they have the possibility to interact with the environment and to change and to provide new functions and to change the health and actually the physiology of the biological system where they are located. So it's not only the microorganisms but also the genes they produce, the proteins they produce, and the metabolites they generate in the interaction with the surrounding environment. All this is giving what we call now the microbiome of a particular ecosystem. So it's becoming more clear every time that these microbiomes are having a very big impact on the health of the ecosystem, and actually they can be exploited to get a sustainable process and a sustainable system. So the importance of microbiomes is being increasingly recognized, and with some initiatives, for instance, the World Microbiome Day that is celebrated every year on the 27th of June, so it was actually celebrated last week. And actually, it's a nice coincidence, the topic of this year for the World Microbiome Day was sustainability. So actually, it's becoming clearer and clearer that through the microbiomes we can actually impact the sustainability of a system, and actually of the food systems. That is what worries us in our department and in our research group. Actually, also the European Commission is giving a high priority to microbiomes and the food microbiomes. And for instance, in 2018, the European Commission decided to fund a series of research projects on this topic, on the food microbiome. In total, they funded these 5 projects that you see now on the screen, with a budget in total of over 40 million euros, so it's a big investment. And 4 of the projects are actually innovation actions. That means that they are actually mean to deliver products, to deliver services in the market that actually address these microbiomes in the food systems. So these 4 innovation actions are Simba, Holofood, Circles, and Master. That is the one that I'm going to present today, because it's the one in which our group at the University of León is involved. So Master is a collaborative research project which involves over 30 partners from all across Europe. They are, in most cases, academic partners, but we also have industry partners, and they are big players in their sectors. For instance, to cite only some of them, in the food sector, Danone, or in the sector of the cultures of microorganisms, we have Christian Hansen, or in the sectors of the DNA sequencing technologies, we have Oxford Nanopore or Qiagen. Maybe some of you are in particular working in those areas, maybe you are very aware of them. And the project is actually coordinated by Dr. Paul Cotter at SAGAS, that is the Irish Food and Agricultural Research Authority. And in the words of our coordinator, Master, as you see there in the slide, takes a global approach to the development of microbiome products, foods, feeds, services, or processes with high commercial potential. And the overall aim is to benefit through improving the quantity, quality, and safety of food across multiple food chains. And you see here that we are targeting marine food chains, plants, soils, ruminants, the meat sector, brewing, fruit and vegetable waste, fermented food. So it's a very big enterprise, a very big focus in very different components of the food chain. So the project is organized in different work packages that each of them addresses different settings of the project, but the overall objective is to deliver products, to deliver services, so to progress to the commercialization of products targeting the microbiome. In most cases, these are microbial agents that are used to either to promote changes or modulations of the microbiomes in a positive sense. So, for instance, to improve the productivity of soils, of crops, or to improve the productivity of animals. In other cases, to control pathogens, to control negative microorganisms in different parts of these food chains, etc. And in other cases, it's not microbial agents what we are promoting, but it's actually tools, procedures, etc. to study the microbiome. So actually, standardized procedures, new technologies to sequence DNA and actually to study the communities of microorganisms. So it's a different number of outcomes that we are expecting that you can see there in the right of the slide. So just in the next slides, I try to very briefly summarize some of the examples of the topics that we are working on, and then I will specifically focus for a couple of minutes in the ones where our university and our group is really involved. So, for instance, in relation to the plant and soil microbiomes, these activities are being coordinated in Austria by Dr. Angela Sesitz from the Austrian Institute of Technology. I'm sorry if I pronounce wrong the name and the surname. So, in these activities, this work package is actually developing microbial solutions to improve the fertility of crops and to help in the biocontrol of some pests, for instance, of some molds like Fusarium that can actually even produce mycotoxins and be then a safety problem along the food chain. And they are also working a bit on developing solutions based on the diagnostic or on the analysis of the microbiome tools to detect pathogens or to predict actually how a crop, how a soil would respond to a treatment. In relation to the work package on marine microbiomes that is coordinated in Iceland, in Mattis, by Viggo Martinsson. So the work is being focused on developing also probiotics, prebiotics, different feeds to improve actually the productivity of fish and also to enhance growth and improve resilience against illness for these species. And also to improve the diagnostic as well of health issues in aquaculture. In relation to the rumen microbiome, the activities are being coordinated both in University of Belfast, Queen's University Belfast, and in CSIC here in Spain by Professor Sharon Hose and David Yaye. And here the activities are also in the development of probiotics, prebiotic supplements for feed to improve the microbiome of ruminants and in that way increase their productivity, but even also reduce methane emission. That is also impacting in relation to the previous greenhouse gas emissions. And also, again, the development of tools and even mathematical models to predict, to estimate how the animal will respond to different treatments. And finally, in the work package that is related to food processing systems, that is related to the waste reuse and the utilization of waste streams in the food chain, and even to how the microbiome can be exploited and modified and modulated to improve human health. This work package is a very big one, mainly the main one of the project, and is where is coordinated also in Ireland at UCC and the University College Cork by Professor Elke Arendt, and a professor at the University of Naples, also in Italy, by Professor Lanero. And here is where our research group and our university is being involved. And here we are taking care in Leon mainly of two of the specific objectives of this work package that are highlighted in bold, that are actually to generate, to validate methodologies, procedures, tools to study, characterize, and map the microorganisms that the microbiome and the microorganisms that colonize food processing environments in food processing facilities, and also to design microbiome-based preservation, biopreservation processes to improve the shelf life of meat products. So in relation to the first specific objective, I would like to highlight that all food processing facilities, the food processing environments in these facilities, are normally colonized by a range of microorganisms that have an important impact on the food quality and the food safety. And actually the food processors have a deep interest in knowing what kind of microorganisms are in their, for instance, their tanks, their pipelines, their baths for cheese making, the slicers, all the equipment they are using, the surfaces in the food processing facilities. Because they know that by controlling the microorganisms that colonize the environment, they can be able to control also problems and to control the microbiological quality and safety of the final product. So, so far, food processors, when they want to know what is in their facilities, they use classical methodologies where they isolate and study in detail very specific microorganisms that they are able to culture in the lab. But this approach has important limitations, and with the new developments in the technology, it's becoming relevant to change to a new paradigm on how to characterize the processing environments. That is to try, by sequencing the DNA, to try to study all the microorganisms that are present in a given sample in a given moment. So this is what we are trying to validate and optimize in master. So procedures and tools to characterize the group of microorganisms that colonize the environments just by sequencing the DNA of a given sample. So we are doing that in more than 100 industries across Europe. Around 50 of them are located in Spain. We are the research group that is coordinating this task. And so far, we have already collected samples in all these more than 100 industries, mostly from the dairy sector, but we are also addressing companies from the meat sector, from the seafood industry, from raw fresh vegetables, etc. And we have been also working closely in collaboration with Kiagen to develop new methods, particularly tailored for isolating enough quantity of DNA for samples that, as you may think, they are in some cases very, very clean. We are dealing with samples where you usually process food that are very regularly cleaned, disinfected, etc. So the microbial load is not expected to be very high, but we need to characterize what is there. So we need to have very, very sensitive methods to detect very small quantities of DNA and to be able to sequence it. So we are working and we are in the process of getting there. We are getting very nice results in collaboration with Kiagen. Then on the second specific objective we are working, we have been characterizing a very large collection of lactic acid bacteria. And we have identified very promising candidates that are very good at controlling the growth of Listeria monocytogenes, that you may be aware is a very important foodborne pathogen. So we have designed a cocktail of 3 of these strains that, when inoculated in different range of meat products, they are very good at controlling the growth of Listeria monocytogenes. So we are working with cooked meats, fermented sausages, also marinated meat products. And for instance, you can see here in the slide how Listeria monocytogenes can grow very, very easily in a cooked meat product. But when we inoculated the cocktail of lactic acid bacteria, the growth is really, really controlled during all the shelf life of the product. And actually, we are not only able to control Listeria monocytogenes, but also we are able to control the growth of other microorganisms that can spoil the product, like for instance, Campylobacterium or Brocotics, that as you can see here at the right are much more abundant in the batches of product. These are examples with cooked meat. The batches of product that have not been inoculated with a cocktail of lactic acid bacteria, whereas in the batches of product inoculated with a cocktail of lactic acid bacteria, they are really controlled as well. So we are progressing on all these topics. So hopefully we will continue progressing on all these stories in the next couple of years until 2023, and hopefully by then you will see in the market some of the products, hopefully that we will be developing in the frame of this master project to promote sustainability and to promote sustainable food systems. So if you have any interest in more details on about the project and what kind of things the different working groups and the different work packages are doing, you can check either the website that you have here in the slide, or actually also the Twitter account, where from time to time we are updating a bit on the main results of the project. So that's all on my side. Thank you for listening, and if you have any question, I will be happy to take them. So thank you.
So, is there any question? No questions? It was really interesting. So
Yeah.
there might be a question from that side. No? No? Okay.
Anyway, if you have any question later on, as Nate was saying before, you can just send an email. They can get you the email address, and you can contact me there.
Next we have to Ivo. Yeah, we're trying to confuse you. The previous ones were just one person, but now that's you. So her name is Flor Alvarez Aguada. She's a teacher, professor in the Faculty of Agricultural and Forest Engineering in the campus of Ponferrada, am I right?
Yeah.
So in another campus that we've got in another city close to Leon. Oh, you know it. Oh, you've been there, so that's nice. And his name is Joaquin Garnica Lopez. They both take part in a company called Bosques and Rios.
Good morning, everyone. As I have been introduced before, I am Avelino Alvarez. I work at the Faculty of Forestry at the University of León. And it is today my pleasure to introduce my partner in crime in this project, Joaquín Garnica.
Hello, thank you very much, Flor. Thanks to all of you for being here. I'm Joaquín. I'm the CEO of a company named Bosques and Ríos, and what we do is planting poplars. And I'm here today to explain you why we are so good and how we work with the University of León to use 3D data for poplar monitoring. And this presentation I'll start it with a question. Could you guess which is the relation between that great ice cream, chocolate, and Emmanuel Nobel?
Did he like ice cream?
Probably he liked ice cream, but it's not the one we're looking for. Could you guess maybe what the stick is made of?
Poplar tree.
That's correct. It's made of wood, and to be more precise, it's made of poplar wood, which is what I plant. And Emmanuel Nobel, Alfred Nobel's father, was the inventor of this machine. That's the peeling machine, the rotary lathe that we use in plywood, that we used to make plywood. Okay? I'll tell you a secret, it's not the machine he invented, it's the one we use nowadays. So, poplar is the main sauce used in Spain to make plywood. So the relation between Emmanuel Nobel and the Magnum and the ice cream is wood. Okay. Thanks to wood, in this case, poplar plywood. With poplar plywood, we can make caravans, we can make trains, we can make furniture in this case, or we can make boats. But we can even build with poplar plywood, okay? With sandwich panels. From wood, we can get a construction material. We can get all kinds of papers to use. We can even get clothes out of the wood, or even make cars nowadays. But the forest is not just for giving us wood. It can give us wood, but it's very important that nowadays it's the most efficient system we know to absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. We don't know any system that works as well as planting trees. When we plant trees, what we're doing is removing CO2 from the atmosphere. An hectare of poplars, in this case, removes 22 tons of CO2 every year, which is not easy to do by any other tree. If we cut these trees and we convert it into a long-term use material, as a construction material, for example, what we're doing is storing the carbon inside this material. For example, if we use a cubic meter of wood instead of concrete or other materials, we reduce a ton of CO2 from the atmosphere. But not all the forests are working like this. We need some conditions for forests to be real carbon sinks, and we need forests that are sustainable, that are well managed, and that are healthy. This is very important for them to work for us. So this is why, for these questions, we need forest management, a correct forest management. And for our correct forest management, we need tools that result for us operational, up-to-date, easy to use, and accurate. And this is why we ask for help to the University of León.
And this is why we started our project Poplar 4D. The aim of this project is to develop a digital web-based tool to estimate the growth and yield in poplar plantations. What does it mean? It means to estimate the amount of wood and the amount of and the amount we will have in the future. But we want models which depend only on easy to gather data which are easy to gather in the field. And with these models, we will not evaluate just the amount of wood we have in the forest, but also the effects of clone selection, the effects of the diseases and the pests on the growth, and on the carbon sequestration. So, one of the highlights of this project is that it has been developed in close collaboration with the poplar sector. For us, for the university, for the researchers, it's very important that these tools are meaningful and they are useful and operational, so they can be used by the final users.
So, who will be the final beneficiaries of this project? The idea is, by one hand, the poplar plantation owners, small plantation owners, and by the other hand, the industry. Thanks to these tools, the small owners will be able to take good decisions in the management of their forest. They will have the security, or they will have a better idea of how much wood they have in their plantations, how much wood they have, how much wood they are going to have. And this is going to permit them or let them rely in their investment. So this will, at the end, will let the sector expand, and it will finally strengthen the sector and beneficiate to the poplar industry, who will have the raw material.
So all this wonderful idea, how can we make it real? How do we do it? How do we use 3D data to obtain all these models? Well, first of all, the volume, the amount of wood, is the 3D component of our model. And we use a terrestrial laser scanner, which is this tool you have here, to gather data. The way the terrestrial laser scanner works is firing lots of points. It works with a point cloud. In each scan, it gets more than 40 million points. And from those data, we are able to get the shape and the size of our trees. And we get it with a very high accuracy. So we can estimate the diameter or the girth at rest height. Also we get the height. And also we can get the volume with a very high accuracy. And it has an additional advantage. That is, as you can see, we don't need to cut the trees to measure the volume. So this is one of the tools we use. And we had a video here, but it just crashed, so I have to do it this way. So, well, let's see if it works before. Okay. So here, well, you can see that's our point cloud. So those are millions of points. We just get one tree, and we can choose the section of the tree that is our target. And we can calculate the volume of that area. And we don't need to do estimations. We just get all the points, and we create around the points a very dense, let's say, a grid, like a net around. And that's the way we can estimate with a very high accuracy the volume we have in the tree. So that's how we do it, but also, on the other hand, we have the fourth dimension, which is time. And time, changes in time, is growth. So this is the second main outcome of our project. It's a free online growth model simulator. And this simulator is able to calculate, to project the amount of wood and the amount of carbon we are going to have in the future. And how do we do it? We use the database from Bosques y Ríos, who have been gathering data for the last 25 years. And they gave us more than 100,000 field measurements. We combine those data with the data we have been gathering during the last months with the terrestrial laser scanner, and with some rain and some models, we got the simulations. And this is one of the outcomes. And both for getting the amount of wood and carbon now and in the future, you only need 3 variables. If you have your poplar, you go to your poplar plantation and you just need to know the age of your poplar, that, well, you know, when you planted that, so that's easy. You need to know the clone, and if you don't know it, you can take Joaquin and he will tell you. And then also you need to measure the diameter. But not everyone has a caliper. So instead of that, you can measure the girth, the circumference, that everyone can measure that with a tape. And with that, you can get all these variables, what you have and what is going to come.
So, my turn. What is next? What we have learned from this project and from our collaboration is that when we work together, we can do much more. The sector gets stronger, it goes on, and it's much better to work together between different administrations than to work everyone on its side. And we know there are many cases of collaboration between companies and researchers with great results around all the world. So we have organized an event to bring these collaborations to the spotlight.
So we introduce you to Populus 360, which is an event which is going to take place in Ponferrada next fall. It's an international meeting for innovation, collaboration, and to build bridges between the poplar sector. We are convinced, we know, and we want to enhance that the collaboration among the researchers, the companies, and the administration is going to give us a more resilient and a more sustainable sector.
And we know we can do it because we are so good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, gotta tell you that I didn't know that this really cool thing was inside of my university, so I'm also a little bit surprised. Do you have any questions for this presentation?
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Spanish, and I would like to ask, what is the reasoning behind studying exactly poplar trees? Is there any special reason, or just a random choice?
Joaquin is the man to ask.
No, not really. No, because we plant poplars, and poplar is in Castilla y León. We are in León, and poplar is a very, very important source in León. We have more than 5,000–6,000 people working around poplar in León. It's I was saying, because I had a presentation just before. If you to make an idea, with around 2% of the area of forestry in Castilla y León, we make the 20% of the volume of cuts in Castilla y León, and the 40% of the economic value of this cell. So it's really potential and really important for the region.
For the region. So availability of the poplar. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
to you.
also just to highlight it, that you might think that Spain is famous because of the wine as well, but the economic importance of the poplar is way bigger. The amount of money and the revenue which brings to the to our region is larger. And also, you know, we are at a public university, so we have also that social side that we have to give back to the society, what society gives us. And poplars, they really, it's something like between the forest and agriculture, right? It's also, they are cultivated trees. And they are very important to keep people in the towns and in the rural areas. Like poplar wood is produced in the rural areas, and also is bringing back money to the rural areas, and that's really, really important. And that's why the University of León and our campus is so involved in this project, because we believe in how important poplar is for our region and how important it is for the rural areas. Okay, thank you. I have learned something with this guy.
I'm not the man, she's the woman. That was clear now.
Thank you for your question. I had the same question, but I could not ask. So, is there any other question? Okay, your name, please.
The question is, those simulations of the world of the tree you said at the time, are they reliable for predicting the future growth of new masses of the same clone?
These models, they have been developed for 5 different clones. But also what we have seen is that some clones, they behave very similarly, like some breeds, let's say, they behave quite similar. So we know if we are going to have new clones but similar to the others, probably we won't need to develop a new model. And these models might be quite accurate for that clone. But the point is, when you have the TLS, when you have the laser scanner, you don't have to wait until the end of when you are going to cut the trees. On your way, you can still get some data. And that's something that they are doing in Bosques y Ríos. They start as well measuring the trees when they are really young, and they do it as well for the new clones. But it's such a changing world. I mean, I have been a forester for 25 years, and I have worked with pines and so on, and like poplar is fascinating because it changes a lot, so it's really challenging. So that's a very good question. We are trying to get models that they won't be as accurate as for the clone they have been developed, but they will be accurate enough.
Well, I will add something. I think the importance of this project, sure, it will be quite accurate, I'm sure about it, because they are very good professionals. There's a lot of data and a very good academic behind it, but the importance is also, it's not going to be 100%, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to go to the plantation when it has 7 years and it will tell you exactly how much you will have in 15, but it will tell you quite exactly enough. And this will be a great tool for small growers that are not technicians, that they don't know too much about the cultivation, so they can take good decisions in the management of the plantation, and they can think, okay, I will have 200 cubic meters to sell, or I will have 300. Maybe it's not 300, it's 280. But it's very important that any person that doesn't have any knowledge is able to see, oh, okay, it's around 300. Because then he will be able to take the good decisions.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, we will get the next and last presentation. A big applause for my friend. Do you want the poplar?
Oh, give me the color.
You're supposed to like it?
It was false publicity.
We don't work for the mountains.
Okay, so up next we have Lanero. She is the director of communication and image from the University of León, and she's also a professor in marketing at the university. She is part of a research group dedicated to marketing in non-profitable public marketing. Okay, that's redundant, but yes. So I would like to.
Okay, thank you, Fernando. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for their invitation. It's a pleasure to be here sharing our research interest with you. I would also like to apologize for the absence of my colleague, José Luis Vázquez, because she can't be here today with us. Both of us are professors of marketing at the University of León, and we belong to the research group of marketing, territorial planning and sustainable development, which is composed of different researchers within marketing and related areas, as well as external collaborators. Our main line of research, as Fernando tried to say, is public and non-profit marketing, and currently are mainly focused in the area of responsible consumption and production. Within this topic, our main line of research is consumer behavior, because responsible consumers play a very relevant role in Sustainable Development Goal number 12. It is much easier that producers engage in responsible production if there is a demand for responsible products. So it is very important that consumers modify their consumption habits. It is very important that they want to use their purchasing power to change the world. Even sometimes they need to be willing to pay more for sustainable products. So our focus is to identify and analyze the importance of the motivational, cognitive, and behavioral obstacles to responsible consumer behavior. And in this respect, what we have found through our research and teaching experiences is that most consumers don't understand the meaning of sustainability. It is very difficult for most consumers to locate and to interpret the information on sustainability. Sustainability is a credence attribute in products. There are a lot of product attributes that are visible for consumers. When we buy a product, we can see the size, the color, we can taste the functionality, we can assess the brand, the price, and so on. But we don't see sustainability. So many times it's difficult for a consumer to know if the product he or she is buying has been obtained with a sustainability production method. In this context, the role of sustainability labels is to reduce the asymmetry of information between producers and consumers. It's a way to put a seal, to put a label, to put a claim in the packaging of the product, so consumers can know that this product is sustainable in some way. Okay, so this is the main function of sustainability labels. According to the literature, there are three main conditions that a label needs to meet to be efficient for consumers. First, the consumers have to pay attention to the label, need to pay attention to identify the label in the packaging of the product. Okay? Second, and most important, the consumer needs to understand the meaning of the label. The product is sustainable, but why? In which dimension? Okay? And finally, the consumer needs to want to buy the product, needs to use the label to purchase this product. Our main focus within these three stages is in the second one, in label understanding, because it is said that knowing a label is important for using it in decision making, but understanding the meaning of the label is a prerequisite for using it correctly. Okay? Again, we want to buy a responsible product, but why is it responsible? Why is it sustainable? And what we appreciate in this context is that there is a great confusion among consumers, because there are a high number of sustainability labels with different meanings, with different levels of certification, and so on. And this occurs because most decisions we usually make in our daily life decisions, in grocery shopping situations like the supermarket and so on, we use heuristics. That is, we are not so rational in our daily life. We don't have time to go to the supermarket, look for information about some products, compare the information, and make the best decision. Is it not possible? We use heuristics. We use mental shortcuts to get quick conclusions about products. So we associate a brand with a kind of quality or a price. We associate it with environmental sustainability. We associate numbers and figures and percentages with accuracy information. So we use mental shortcuts to make decisions. This is useful, this is efficient, because we need to live, we need to finish the shopping and go home. But most times we commit mistakes, we commit cognitive mistakes. mean that the product is sustainable. But there are different meanings of sustainability and different dimensions of sustainability. When consumer doesn't understand the meaning of the label, it trusts the source, the entity that put the seal, but not the meaning. So source credibility occurs when consumers rely more on the credibility of the information than on the content of the information. But as you probably know, there are different types. For instance, there are 3 types of labels according to the way of ranking. Type 1 labels are those labels that have been certified by a third-party entity. So we can trust these labels because there is an independent third party that has assessed that the company is fitting some environmental or societal or economic criteria. Okay, so it's very important to identify, to rely on type 1 labels. These are some examples. Very important as well is to know that there are different dimensions of sustainability. Not all the labels means that the product is responsible in every way. For instance, you probably know the European Union logo, the Nordic Eco Label, Global Textile Standards. These are labels that certify that the product has met environmental sustainability in the production process. Okay? Other type 1 environmental label is the FSC, as you can see, the Forest Stewardship Council label, but it refers to good derived products. So most times it refers to the packaging of the product, but not to the product itself. It's a very important thing to distinguish as well. One thing is the product, and the other thing is the packaging of the product. And sometimes we mix all this information in our mind. And there are other type 1 labels that refer to social or economic sustainability, but not to environmental sustainability. For instance, fair trade, protected geographical indication, and so on. There is another type of sustainability labels, type 2 labels. These are not certified by third parties. These are self-declarations of the own company, the own firm, the own brand, that state that it is responsible or sustainable. They need to fit some minimal standards according to ISO norms or European regulations, but there is not any certification process. These are self-declarations, so it's a different level of ranking. And finally, we have type 3 labels. In this case, we again have a third-party certification entity, but there is no minimal standards to meet. There is a third party that quantifies, for instance, the carbon thrust of this product. But the carbon thrust label doesn't mean that the product have no emissions. It only certifies a percentage of emission. The consumers need to search for the label, compare the figure, the percentage in different products, and make a decision. Okay, so it is very useful to make some mistakes when interpreting the meaning of labels. The second cognitive mistakes we have found in our research is the halo effect. Consumers think that if a product is sustainable, it's good in every way. As I have said, there are 3 different dimensions of sustainability. One product may be environmentally sustainable, but not socially or economically. It occurs, for instance, with the fair trade label. Most times it is understood as a symbol also of environmental sustainability, where it is not true. Okay? And similarly, we think that if a product is sustainable, it's of better quality. Many times this is true. A product derived from agriculture, from organic agriculture, probably will be more healthier. But many times there are these organic biscuits, organic yogurt, a lot of products that have a high quantity of sugar as well. So many times an organic product is not automatically more nutritive, for instance. So we need to differentiate different already even thinks that he or she is buying a responsible product, but doesn't understand the real meaning of the label. It is known that most consumers can't explain the meaning of organic, for instance. So it would have consumers that have very good intentions, but if they don't have the experience, the knowledge, many times they are vulnerable to greenwashing actions by many companies. For instance, you have in this slide examples of advertising claims. We have seen 3 types of sustainability labels in the previous slides, but consumer marketers and producers many times put in packaging advertising claims. This is marketing. This is not official certification. There is some regulations for this, many of these commercial claims. For instance, one company cannot use the term organic, bio, and so on in the packaging or in the name of the brand if they don't meet European regulation on organic agriculture, but there is no regulation for natural, cruelty-free, artisan, and so on. So this is part of the confusion. You can see in this slide one example we usually use in our teaching seminars. This is it shows 2 Spanish products. Maybe you can find some examples also in your country. If you see, these are vegetable soups. The first one, maybe you can not see it well, but the first one has the European Union logo for organic production. The second one doesn't, but everything in packaging points to sustainability. They use the natural ingredients claim. They put a lot of environmental condiments that are self-declaration of the brand. They use the color green. There are 2 products of the same brand. One is organic, the other don't, but they don't like very, very close. Another example, the first coffee you see in the slide has the fair trade label. The second one has not any official certification in the packaging, but it looks like sustainable because of the appearance of the paper, the use of commercial claims, and so on. So it's quite usual. In conclusion, we think that education for sustainable development is a real challenge for this the Sustainable Development Goal number 12, because consumers is a very relevant part of this goal. So it's very important to work in this sense and also to work in the improvement of regulations on labeling and advertising claims related to sustainability. Our next steps, we are going to try to open a new line of research on neuromarketing, because as I have said, most decisions of consumers occur in a few seconds, in less than a second. So it's very difficult to research consumer behavior only with survey studies. We need to study the brain and how consumers react to this kind of stimulus in a short time. And we, of course, are open for international comparisons. In this sense, I would like to finish with presenting you one of our more recent initiatives, which is an observatory on local production and sustainability, sustainable consumption. We are promoted through the International Association and Public and Non-Profit Marketing and other related entities, and it aims to enhance teaching, research, and transfer actions within this subject of responsible consumption. It is open for individual or institutional adherents if you are interested in, and in that case you simply can send us contact with us or send to us an email. And this was my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
So, I know that as soon as you go out here, you will go to the supermarket, you will try to read the brands. Also try to read the Spanish labels, but they are in Spanish, so it's more difficult. is there any question for, okay, your name and the question, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Adem Olovčić, International Bush University, Sarajevo. You mentioned in your presentation several things related to my question, but I want to ask you how to achieve the situation where consumers will be able to interpret the label and thus to buy smart. Long story short, how to raise awareness on this issue. That is particularly interesting question when it comes to marketing, and especially when it comes to our country where we have certain habits that we cannot move from. So that would be my question. Thank you.
Yes, it is a very difficult question because it is a big challenge. How to educate and train consumers for this? Mostly because we also observe that training programs, common training programs doesn't work so much because heuristic thinking is very automatic. So there is a change of mind. By one hand, I would work in improving sensibilization, awareness of consumers, but also a specific training in preventing this kind of mistakes in normal situation, in advertising. There is a need for regulation because there is a big risk of greenwashing, as we have seen in the presentation. So it's a big challenge, as you probably can imagine, because most of us incur some kind of cognitive mistakes in our daily lives. Not only in social situation everywhere, but it's I think it is a very relevant point to take into account when working. It's important to enhance the responsible production of companies, but also to take into consideration how the consumer think and how to promote their responsible behavior. Thank you.
Is there any further questions to this matter? No? So I'd like to thank all the people that have been talking to us today, and also you as a public. You've been wonderful. And I would like you to go to the stage, please. The people who have been the speakers, please go to the stage. No, here. So, thank you all for being here today. And yeah, we're going to give you some big applause to the and I'd like to know who has a paper with the signs. Anyone here? Okay, it's up there. So thank you all for being here today, and I hope you have a nice afternoon. You are free to go.
Thank you very much.
Ne, sad će u meni donijeti kupon, nanu.
Ne samo kupon, nego i hranu.